Just the chairman has just let us know that he's going to be slightly late. So I just wonder in the interim, would it be possible to appoint a pro tem chair for tonight? Have we anyone? Thank you, members.
Thank you, members, and we'll get the meeting started. And you're all very welcome to tonight's RNC meeting. I'll fill in now until the chair appears. Can I ask for apologies then for tonight? Councillor Green.
Could I give the apologies for Councillor Campbell and Councillor Marty McCollum?
Thank you. Any other apologies? No. Okay, we'll move on to declarations of interest. Members can let us know if there's any. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Declarations of interest 6.3 Event Strategy Working Group. Thanks.
Okay, then members, we'll move on to the reports for consideration. We'll start with item 4, Community and Wellbeing Directorate reports. So we'll go to item 4.1 to consider the report and proposals for funding in respect of ending violence against women and girls. Paper A.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the report provides an update on the funding package outlined by the Executive Office in working with Fermanagh and Omagh District Council to help end violence against women and girls, including a partnership arrangement between the Council and Fermanagh Women's Aid and Omagh Women's Aid. I suppose at the start we should acknowledge the 16 days of action against gender-based violence, which Fermanagh Women's Aid and Omagh Women's Aid were very much to the forefront and actually culminated today with a candlelit vigil in both Omagh and Enniskillen. The various events which were held throughout the 16 days were very much supported by the Council to raise awareness and to highlight the issue of gender-based violence and violence against women and girls. And I suppose it is in that sense that the report is brought. Members will remember that at the special council meeting, council powers were provided to this committee, but an outline of the proposals from the Executive Office were provided at that meeting. The strategy, which was launched by the Executive in September 24, it intends to bring a whole society of government response to ending violence against women and girls. And its main focus is actually on prevention, to stop it happening, to look at the underlying causes of abuse and harm, and stopping it before it actually becomes real. The strategic framework is a 7-year map, and the prevention outcomes include changing attitudes, behaviour and cultures, healthy and respectful relationships, and to ensure that women and girls are safe and feel safe everywhere. And the Executive Office are seeking Council support with 2 aspects of this in this initial phase of delivery. The first part is initial momentum support funding to enable the Council to expand the work that is already going on within Council and indeed with many of the organisations out in our community, to enhance the capacity of organisations to be able to apply to stage 2, which is a change fund. And you will see in Appendix 1 that the Executive Office have communicated with us to say that the business case approval business is hoping to take place in December. And whilst there's nothing guaranteed at this stage, it is very, very likely that a formal letter of offer will be made for both the Momentum Support Fund and the Change Fund in December. The Momentum Fund is 45,000 in this financial year. Officers have engaged with Fermanagh Women's Aid and Omagh Women's Aid to discuss the development of an activity programme because that money must be spent in the 24-25 year before the end of March. And there are 4 elements that are proposed. One is workshops and support. So a minimum of 7 workshops to be organised in January and February to prepare applicants for the Change Fund. The second is a seminar series of 3 open seminars delivered online with a focus on ending violence against women and girls. The third aspect of the Momentum funding proposed is an International Women's Day event developed and delivered in partnership with the Council by both Enniskillen and Omagh Women's Aid. And the final part of that Momentum funding proposed is a toolkit resource pack for organisations, including information on how to respond to inappropriate behaviours and policies and procedures, and how to support change. So I suppose that is the piece of work in this financial year. We are also asked to provide some sort of high-level details on the Change funding, which is due to be allocated to the Council in the next financial year. Some 90,000, which is due to be allocated in the 25-26 year. And that is largely a grant scheme for organisations at a very local level to undertake activities to bring awareness, to increase awareness to the communities out there of what constitutes the likely behaviours of violence against women and girls. And it is proposed that there will be 2 tiers of grants, one between 1,000 and 5,000, second tier grants between 5,000 and 15,000, and tier 3 grants between 15,000 and 25,000 to be made to the Council to be assessed against a set criteria and for successful projects. And the promotion of that, because the scheme, in order to undertake that activity in the 25-26 year, it is hoped that the promotion of that will take place from January onwards through the momentum phase of the project. So Chair, the recommendation is that the Council approves the development of a partnership agreement with Fermanagh Women's Aid and Omagh Women's Aid to progress the momentum phase of delivery, including an event to mark International Women's Day, which takes place at the start of March of 2025. And secondly, approves the opening of a grant aid programme under the Change Fund in February 25 to allow for programmes to commence at the local level in April of that year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. That's a very comprehensive report, and we certainly welcome the contents of it. We'll go to Barry McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose the adoption of the recommendation. Both recommendations there, 1 and 2. And as our Director, John, has said, there was a vigil earlier today, 2 of them within the council area, Omagh and Enniskillen. And I was able to attend the Omagh vigil. I know that John was in attendance as well, and Councillor Deehan was there, and Councillor Stephen Donnelly and our Council Chair John McLaughlin spoke at it. Very poignant. 24 candles were brought up and placed in the shape of a heart to remember 24 women who were killed in this region this year. And Mickey Joe Hart, the singer from Lifford, sang at the event as well. Now, on a personal level, I was glad to meet him again because he's actually a family friend of ours, and I was delighted to meet Mickey Joe Hart. But it was a very good occasion, very dignified, well run by Women's Aid, and it's good that we're able to help in this way. The Executive Office and the Council working together, because if this wasn't, you'd have to invent this if it didn't exist. Funding for this type of activity. It's really, really important. I'm very aware too of a local group in the legal field who are doing great work with the judiciary, you know, inside this area, this local area. Omagh Solicitors Association are working closely to improve understanding inside the judicial system as well. So I can only imagine that OMA Solicitors Association will be delighted to learn of this initiative as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Withers.
Thank you, Chair. And like others, I'm sure in the chamber, I welcome this investment. The statistics are shocking. Currently, the violence, it's gender-based violence that exists in our community, and they're not just statistics. We all know there's individuals behind that, women and girls. So there's no onus on everybody to do what we can to stamp this out. Really, it's a scourge in society. So as public representatives, and particularly as men as well, we all have a vital role to play and ensure this can't continue. So it's great to see a collaborative approach as well between ourselves, Executive Office, and then Women's Aid locally. So just a second, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 4.2 to consider the report. Sorry, members, just checking everyone's in agreement with that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 4.2 to consider the report on Good Relations Action Plan 2025 to 2026. Paper B.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to seek approval for the Good Relations Action Plan for the next year. An annual report which comes through members and in fulfilling of the statutory duties under Section 75 of the Northern Ireland Act. The Executive Office Community Relations Unit provides 75% of the funding for good relations for salary and programme costs within the Council, and the Council contribute the remaining 25%. The budget allocation for good relations for 24-25 was 141,500. The Executive Office haven't provided any details of the funding availability for the 25-26 year, but it is expected to be at much the same level. And it is on that basis that the Good Relations Action Plan has been prepared. If and when we get a notification of the allocation from the Executive Office, and if it's any different, we will bring an update report to this RNC committee. The action plan highlights a number of programme of activities under a number of headings: our children and young people. So delivery of a programme in schools and work with Education Authority. Our shared community, which focuses on the promotion of good relations in communication and learning opportunities and use of shared spaces, and also the work that is undertaken in Good Relations Week, which would be in September of each year. Thirdly, our safe community, which is a joint initiative with the PCSP on traveller engagement and working with traveller community to establish a representative group in the OMA area. And fourthly, our cultural expression to include work with faith-based organisations, ethnic minority communities, and so on. The action plan is included as Appendix 1 of the report, and Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council Good Relations Action Plan for next year. Chair.
I'll just pass over to the Chair, Councillor Donnelly. Thank you.
Councillor Donnelly, thank you very much for stepping in. I love Fermanagh so much I went there, even though I had no reason to be. Okay, so item 4.2, and just the report is completed. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any comments at this stage? Let's see. Okay, if we can just get a proposal. See, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just propose the recommendations as listed.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. And second by Councillor Rainey, see. Okay, handy enough. And we all agreed? We all content? Handy enough. Okay, then moving on to item 4.3, which is to consider report on Heritage Plan 2025 to 2030.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a report on a plan which has been, I suppose, in a long time in the making. It outlines the strategic approach to preserving, promoting and celebrating our district's cultural, natural and built heritage. I think there's no doubt about it that our district has some of the best heritage in the region. And sometimes I don't think we make the best use of it. I don't think we promote it the best, and open it up for our locals and indeed tourists to make use of. And I think it is something which, from a developmental point of view for our district, has real potential. So the plan has been developed through a co-design process with people across the council. I have to say, for a project which is cross-directed and cross-service internally here, it is a good example of how teams work together, but also with external stakeholders, and the views of external stakeholders have been taken into account in relation to its development. The engagement of organisations externally, such as Donegal County Council, Derry City and Strabane District Council, the Mellon Centre for Migration Studies, and a lot of other stakeholders have been involved in the formulation. It concentrates around 3 core strands, which we would expect: cultural heritage, which includes all our Indigenous traditions of language, pastimes, music, folklore, our natural heritage, which we certainly have an abundance of within the district. So it is about safeguarding that natural heritage, making it better, I suppose, in a sense, for future generations than what we have ourselves. And thirdly, the built heritage in preserving the council's historical structures, and again, opening them up for others to experience and to enjoy. It is designed to be implemented primarily by the council, but we can't do it, and we're very much aware that we have to work with others in order to develop it, in order to bring it to the fore. And when I say that, we will be talking about working with tourism bodies, with heritage bodies or whatever, in order one, to preserve, but also to promote and to open it up. The action plan that is associated and the heritage plan is included as Appendix 1. There are a number of themes and strategic objectives which are included in the heritage plan. One is to improve access. Secondly is to develop and promote. Thirdly is to work in partnership. And fourthly is to protect. And you will see from the plan that there's a very extensive list of actions which are proposed in the draft heritage plan in order to bring it to fruition. The plan is proposed to open it up to consultation, a 12-week public consultation process, which will run from the 20th of January until the 14th of April, to gather the input from community members, heritage groups, education providers, any other stakeholders. And indeed, we plan to have a workshop with members during that period in order to get their views in relation to the plan also. It will take place in a number of forms, whether online, there will be hard copy consultation documents, and so on, out among the community. So, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves the 12-week public consultation on the draft heritage plan for Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, scheduled from the 20th of January to the 14th of April, and notes the dedicated engagement session with elected members during that consultation period. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thanks for that, John. Okay, we're going to go here to Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. I think we're all very enthused about the development of a heritage strategy for the council and for the council area. It's a really important development that is about to take place. And I would call on the public to make their views known, in respect of the plan, as is outlined. 20th of January, it opens, the consultation for 12 weeks. So I would say to people and groups locally, become involved. It's your heritage, it's our heritage, and it'll look at culture, obviously. It'll look at landscape, natural heritage, and also built heritage. And I would be very proud of the Oma musical heritage, and it's something that the council has been very involved in recent years, and working up, a music heritage trail and Oma Music Festival. I'd be very proud of other things like the fact that in Mid Tyrone, in Muchurlunny territory, running from Cregan right through to Gorton, that Irish language was spoken as a first language by people up until the 1950s and possibly beyond, Gaeltacht Mid Tyrone. Even in Carrickmore, for example, and other people teased these thoughts out to me in the briefing, even the presence of St. Columkille's well, St. Columkille's bed, St. Columkille's chair, and the cure that is contained in St. Columkille's well. All of these things are very important to people. I'm minded to say here as well that Charlotte Milligan Fox had accumulated a huge amount of Irish traditional music material and gave it till Dunullu, as I understand. And that's probably, relatively under-discovered. Coltis have done their bit, to archive that and to bring it to our attention. But it's something to be shouted about. Literature, if you take poetry alone, from Alice Milligan till W.F. Marshall, that's just maybe an Oma kind of area perspective that I would like to offer early on. But really what I'm saying is to the public is become involved in this and make your views known. And I would like to commend officials for bringing it to this stage. And I would like to propose that the recommendations 1 and 2 there. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McElduff. And we're going now to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Director John Boyd for bringing us this very comprehensive report. A lot of work has went into this so far, and like Councillor McElduff, I suppose I would encourage members of the public right across the board, right across this district, to get involved and on all parts of it and all different cultures to be involved, because Councillor McElduff rightly covers his own background there, with the Irish language and what have you, but there are cultures and there are languages and dialects out there as well. So it's very important that everyone's involved in this. So with that, I'll second the proposal and the 2 parts of recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And we go to Councillor Green.
Yeah, I suppose culture and folklore is amazing in this area. Someone else has said. I think it was John said, we don't blow our own trumpet near enough in relation to this. I suppose locally to me, there's a place called Cairn Rock, and it's located within Slieve Bay area, which the council is working hard at the minute to try and come up with funding to do a project in the Slieve Bay area at the minute. Now, I suppose the background on it is that this folklore, I would say it's more fact that Bith, the son of Noah, got off the ark on Cairn Rock. And just on a personal note, if you look at some of the photographs of Bith, he looks uncannily like one of the local councillors. So, but he's supposed to be buried on Cairn Rock, son of Noah. And it's legends like that, that needs to be kept alive, and people are interested in the likes of that now. I don't know how there was so many cameras about 2,348 years BC, but seemingly there was. Just on a question now, there's an internal forum being created. Is councillors going to be included in that, John?
No, Chair, it's not anticipated that councillors, but what we will do is that we will report even on a 6-monthly basis back to this committee. It isn't planned that we would have another effective working group on heritage. But I think it is something that we should report to on a regular basis as to how we're progressing against the plan and what the initiatives are that we are actually proposing, against the actions that have been listed here.
Just to follow up on that, and what would the format of the internal forum, how would that be created, or what format would it follow?
I think it will be, like I say, the development of the plan itself was very much cross-sectional across the council, and it would be envisaged that the people representing tourism from within the council, place shaping within the council, community services, our estates team, our parks and property service, or even our arts and cultural team, or cultural Lakelands geopark team, or whatever, would sit on that, and would actually develop the operational actions that flow out of the 4 sets of objectives that are listed here in the plan. Very operational group, to see how do we develop and what are we developing and how we are interacting with various heritage groups and so on. There is some good work at this point in time that is actually taking place. Even through our community wellbeing plans, we are seeing that, that local heritage groups are establishing at a very local level, at a parish level. And it's trying to work with those sorts of groups, and that's what that forum would do, to work with those sorts of groups in order to bring heritage closer to the people at a very local level. So a very operational group, but I think it would be worth reporting all of those actions and all of those details back to committee here, even on a 6-monthly basis.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications, and I think that's been proposed and seconded. Are we all agreed? Okay, handy enough. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 4.4, which is to consider the report of the Director of Community and Wellbeing, paper D.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, 2 elements to the report. One is to consider a request from Drumduff and Drumnachilly Community Association for a letter of support towards a funding application to the SSE Electricity Generation Green Community Fund. The proposed project involves installing solar panels on their community building to reduce the carbon emissions and reduce running costs. It will enable the centre to continue to deliver programmes to benefit the people of the local area, but also to show best practice at a very local level, I suppose, of the way in which the council are actually moving forward in order to adopt sustainable energy solutions. And certainly, members will be aware of the district's own net zero aspirations by 2040. The second element of the report is in relation to full dispersal funding, again, which the Executive Office has provided will be available to support asylum seekers, and also additional funding to support the development of familiarisation resources and events. The Executive Office have made available £15,000 within this current year, which has to be spent before the 31st of March, to support the work with asylum seekers. And it's proposed that the Council will work in partnership with Orano to develop and deliver that bespoke support and programme for the period up until the 31st of March. The Executive Office have also asked if the Council would support with the delivery of 2 other elements. One is a fairs type familiarisation session for asylum seekers, which are events to be held in Belfast, which will really encourage asylum seekers not just to stay in Belfast, but maybe to spread out, about moving out to the west here. And the second element, to develop and translate or develop resources for those asylum seekers. There is a further £8,780 available for that and for familiarisation activity that complements the fairs itself. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves the letter of support to Drumnachilly Community Association to support their application to the SSE Electricity Generation Green Fund. And I have to say that, you know, provision of that letter doesn't construe any financial commitment by the Council, nor provide any support for a planning application that may or may not be required as part of their project. And secondly, the notes the allocation of funding to support the asylum seekers funding from the Executive Office. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, John. And we go to Councillor Withers here in the chamber.
Margaret Carley. Yep, thank you, Chair. Just want to propose the recommendations and certainly support the letter. They're going to the Flaxmill Centre. I know personally done a letter last week for them as a local representative. So certainly the Flaxmill Centre is a great resource there in the local community and hosts many local activities for the wider residents in that area. So certainly I think this is a worthwhile project that they're trying to go on with getting these solar panels, and that investment we very much welcome. And also second, the proposal there on the investment for the asylum seekers. Again, want to be seen as a welcoming community and doing everything we can and working with the Executive Office to ensure that's the case. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. And that is being seconded by Councillor Rennie. Not seeing any further indications. So we agreed, members? Good stuff. And positive to see that. I mean, I know being an OMA councillor, the work that Arano does on the ground supporting ethnic minorities, refugees and asylum seekers is enormously positive. Moving on then to item 5, which is a report for decision to consider the report on the Department for the Economy Sub-Regional Economic Plan, paper E.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report, members, is to provide an update on the sub-regional economic plan and to seek approval for the proposed governance arrangements that are set out within the report. So in terms of background and key issues then, as you'll be aware, the Minister for the Economy launched the sub-regional plan on the 1st of October, and the plan itself will focus on 3 strands of delivery. So the creation of a new local economic partnership, the enhancement of Invest NI at a regional level, and then the realignment of departmental policies and programmes to drive local growth. The total amount of funding on offer for the sub-regional plan is 15 million per year for 3 years across all 11 councils. Now, the total allocation of funding for Manoma District Council has still to be confirmed. We have been engaging with DFE officials just on that and how the formula for the funding is being developed. And we have sent some queries back to them on that, and they're going to come back to us on it. All projects funded under the sub-regional plan must meet the objectives included in the Minister's vision for the economy. So that's increased productivity, more good jobs, regional balance and decarbonisation. In terms of the focus of the activity which can be completed under the plan, the Council, as we know, has recently undertaken significant consultation and engagement on a variety of Council documents, including our Inclusive Economic Action Plan and our Visitor Experience Development Plan. And then we've also been working with the Productivity Institute on a Product Institute report. And all of these will be relevant to the sub-regional plan and how we actually apply it and apply the progress of it within the district. So it would be recommended then that the key priorities from that would become key priorities from the sub-regional plan. The action plan itself then to progress the sub-regional plan within Fermanagh District should reflect the priorities of the documents I've mentioned and then those that are also referred to in paragraph 2.5. Councils are required to assess how best the work can be progressed, and it's been suggested in the guidance from DFE that consideration be given to the establishment of a local economic partnership. So given the complementarity of this work to the community planning and the long-established partnership there already in place and already working, it's recommended that the work of the sub-regional local economic partnership can, in the main, be progressed through the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board. In that arrangement, the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board will fulfil the role envisaged for the local economic partnership. And because there's no legislative basis for the LEP, the final decision-making on the action plan and any associated interventions then would reside with the Council. And updates on progress will be reported to the Community Plan and Strategic Partnership Board, and the action plan would then be reviewed by the board on an annual basis to ensure that the issues remain relevant and are being addressed. On receipt of the final guidance then from the department, the council will put in place appropriate arrangements for stakeholder consultation and engagement on the proposed action plan, with a view to achieving a consensus on the key economic priorities for the district. And I suppose just to note on that, we would of course engage with businesses as relevant, and also obviously with our local or labour market partnership and any other relevant stakeholders. I think it's also fair to say at this point that there is fluidity in terms of the process that the department have set out for us, but based on the information available to us and our engagement with DFE officials, the position in the paper, we're content that it will meet the governance requirements. So in terms of then the approval process for projects, that's still being finalised by the department. However, it's anticipated that projects with a spend of up to 500,000 can be approved by council, and then projects with a higher value may need to be approved by InvestNI. It also remains unclear as to whether the council can apply for funding for projects that may require funding across more than one financial year. So for example, if we were to look at some sort of capital project. In terms of resource costs, those are eligible as part of the fund and spend, and the council will appoint appropriate staff to provide support as part of the LEP work programme. So a report seeking approval for the proposed government arrangements was also presented to our Community Plan and Strategic Partnership Board just yesterday, and that was discussed and agreed at the Partnership Board. And then subject to agreement with members, then it would be intended that at a meeting of the Community Plan Partnership Board would be held in January to receive a further update on the sub-regional plan and to endorse the terms of reference for the LEP. So in terms of the recommendation then, members, it's recommended the council agrees the work of the sub-regional local economic partnership will be progressed to the Community Planning Partnership Board, and that it will fulfil the role of the local economic partnership for the sub-regional economic plan.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to go to Councillor McElduff.
Chair, just to formally propose the adoption of the recommendations. I'm familiar with the work of the structures that are mentioned in the report, and I thank our Director Sinead for the very well documented explanation of the work so far. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Very much. And we go to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks again to Director Sinead McAvoy for her report. And I know some of us were on the meeting yesterday, the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board, and this is to be very much welcomed. And I'll second the recommendation as proposed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. And I don't think I'm seeing any further indications. So if we're content with that recommendation, we all agreed? Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much. Then moving on to item 6.1, which is to note the update report on creating a smoke-free generation and tackling youth vaping, paper F.
Thank you, Chair. The report is to provide members with progress on the commitment by the UK government to create smoke-free generation and to tackle youth vaping. Again, this has been a long time in the ethers of government. In October 23, the government announced its intention to create a smoke-free generation in England by stopping people born after the 1st of January 2009 from ever being legally sold cigarettes. And I know that was discussed here in the chamber at that time. In relation to vaping, the key proposals included restricting the flavours, the packaging on it, the bans on displays such as we have with cigarettes at this point in time. There was a consultation undertaken by the UK Department of Health at that time, and there was a high level of response, largely very positive towards the implementation of the legislation, and there was a bill drafted. However, that bill fell with the dissolution of Parliament due to the election. In last month, the government introduced a revised version of the bill, and legislative consent must be sought again by the Northern Ireland Assembly once more for inclusion in order to take on the provisions within that bill. Those provisions are detailed in Appendix 1 of the report, and it outlines the areas which is most of interest to councils, such as the sale and distribution, the product information and requirements, advertising and sponsorship. I suppose all which will fall to our officers in environmental health to enforce. The Department of Health has advised that Westminster has only just commenced its consideration of the bill, and the Northern Ireland Assembly will also undertake a scrutiny role. But interestingly, the Director of Population Health within the department has offered to formal engagement with the councils to discuss the bill provisions in greater detail if the council wish. In addition to that, councils have also been engaging with the Department of Agriculture, DERA, on proposals for a ban on the use of single-use vapes. And I know, again, this is something that has come through the chamber on numerous times. It is something that is supported by councils, but a number of concerns have been raised by councils through Solace, in relation to for the provision of resources in order to enforce such a ban. And Solace has proposed that DERA carries out a full regulatory impact assessment before determining the best model for the single-use bans here in Northern Ireland. And such enforcement could be expensive to council, and I suppose what we see very often is that extra responsibilities being passed down to local government without the appropriate budget being passed along with it. Both for the tobacco and vapes bill and for the DERA on proposals on the use of single vapes, there are resource implications for councils, and it is in that respect that a full impact assessment needs to be carried out in both aspects of the report. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the update regarding the UK's commitment to creating single smoke-free generation and tackling youth vaping, including the proposal on a ban on single-use vapes, and councils will continue to look at the resource implications that are associated with both.
Thanks for that, John. Not seeing any indications for that one. Councillor McAduff.
Yep. Thanks to John for the update. And this council is taken seriously the whole issue of vaping and where we can add value. I'm just wondering if John might be familiar with the situation south of the border. You know, it might have been similar in the sense that there might have been a private member's bill that fell foul till an election and then maybe has to be reinstituted. But I'm wondering, is there any similarities in the provisions? You know, is it the same direction? Is it going in the same direction? Is really my question. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I think Councillor McAduff is absolutely correct in that it did fall foul of the election in Ireland also. And it is actually in the same direction. I think we are largely very much in line with the banning of single-use vapes and so on. So it is something, I suppose, that across both Northern and Southern Ireland, that we would have a one approach to it.
And Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm happy to second the recommendation, but I would like to note that I would have concerns in relation to the enforcement that's going to be required and the resourcing of that. Again, it's another function from DERA that is trying to be passed on to councils with little or no funding. So that would be a serious concern. So I'm happy to note the position at the moment, but I wait to hear what additional resources will be forthcoming to enable the council to follow through on, yes, we want to reduce and hopefully do away with people smoking and vaping, but we need the resources to do so. Thank you.
Very much. And Councillor Barton.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you've touched on what I was going to ask about. This, the reinforcement of it. It's very well introducing this and introducing this, and yes, it's all good. But how is it going to be? How is it going to be enforced? Is the question I would ask, and at what cost to the council and to the ratepayers?
I think, Chair, that's the concern that Solas, who represents all councils, and that's why they are requesting an impact assessment before the introduction of any legislation and the responsibilities being passed down to councils. I suppose what we have seen, and we have seen it on a number of occasions in the last couple of years, is that those resources, even though they were allocated at one stage or another, are removed from councils, and councils are still expected to undertake those functions. So I think there needs to be some certainty with the allocation of budget for extra responsibilities, which we take on as a result of the legislation.
Okay, I don't see any indications online or in the chamber. I think that's been proposed and seconded. No, has it not been seconded yet? Oh, yeah, Councillor Donnelly did second it, yeah. Oh. Who proposed it, sorry? Yeah, it was Councillor McElduff. Yeah, I was going to say. That's no worries. Okay, that's been proposed and seconded. In agreement then? Good job, thank you. Okay, moving on then to item 6.2, which is to note report on the delivery of the 2024 Summer Scheme Programme, paper G.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this report comes from a previous discussion that we had on the proposals for the summer scheme for 2024. And members raised issues with regard to the number of children who are not able to take part in the summer scheme because of availability of spaces on those schemes. So just a little bit of background as to what happened in this year. 56 summer schemes were delivered with over 1,700 children participating at various locations throughout the district, council leisure centres, arts facilities and community facilities. And then in addition to that, the council provided funding at the centres which we fund in Trillake, Ecclesville and Dromoa for a further 21 summer schemes. You will see from the report, however, that the number of children that we had, 342 children who were on reserve lists wanting to take part in summer schemes at our community centres. We have a number of ways in which we deliver summer schemes. One is at leisure centres and arts provisions. There were 26 schemes at those. Community services provision, there were 30 schemes at community services. There was 925 children participating in those. But like I say, there was a further 342 children on a reserve list for those schemes. We also had a further grant aid scheme for community organisations, and there were 17 schemes also in rural areas. Total grant aid of over £17,000 was allocated through this programme, in addition to those that we provided ourselves in 2024. All of our schemes had the ability for social referrals, and there was limited ability, I suppose, but we do facilitate anyone with a disability in order to take part in our summer schemes also. In relation to enhancing provision for 2025, I suppose planning is already underway for the 2025. There There are two elements of planning for the summer schemes. One is the planning itself, and it is a significant workload. You can imagine with all the schemes, the 56 schemes that take place across the district, in trying to find a location, in insurance, in making sure that the appropriate insurance provision is there, making sure that the proper planning is there, making sure that social referral system is in place, and so on at each one of those schemes. And then there is the ability to staff those schemes when it comes during the summer months, when a lot of people are taking holidays. We do rely on students or whatever. I think it was Councillor Green suggested last year that we should maybe send it out to schools or whatever, where teachers would be on summer holidays and may wish to take part in working on a casual basis, and that certainly will be done in the next for 2025. But it is supposed, in order to increase provision, in order to be able to meet that demand with over 300 extra kids, a further resource, there's no doubt about it, that further resource would be required from what we currently have at the minute. So the proposal at a community services provision, we currently charge £11 per child for the week. The actual cost of delivery is £91, so it's heavily subsidised. So we're proposing that members consider an increased cost, instead of £11 up to £25 for the 5-day scheme, and that will partly help to recover the cost of increased provision. We're proposing that to run a further 6 schemes at community service level in community centres or community facilities, and an additional 6 schemes provided within the Castle Park Centre in Listonskey and the Bonacre Centre in Irvinstown. So an extra is 12 schemes in total, and it is hoped that those 12 schemes would meet the needs of the extra excess of 300 children who require it. Even with the proposed increase in charging, it would require an additional budget of £25,000 through the estimates process in the 25-26 year. And that is after taking account, and we have looked really, really hard at our budgets. The extra cost in totality, even after taking the taking account of extra income through the £25, is 39,000. We've been able to find 14,000 of it within existing budgets, and that's where the remainder, the 25,000 shortfall comes from at this point in time. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the review of the 2024 summer scheme provision, notes the formal engagement with the various groups representing children and young people with a disability, and to explore opportunities to increase participation and provision. And I think that is important, and it must be stressed that those people, anyone with a disability or whatever, there has to be increased supervision for those people at the summer schemes. And thirdly, notes the requirement of an additional £25,000 towards the delivery of community-based summer schemes and enhanced provision at the Castle Park and Bonacre Centre, and that may wish to be taken into consideration during the 25-26 estimates process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, John. And we go to Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, John, for that report. It's something I look forward to hearing every year about how the summer scheme goes, because I know there's huge demand, and to be perfectly honest, 925 children going through that scheme is fantastic, but just shows the demand that there is, if there's still 325 children on a reserve list. I know in my local area, I think there's only about 20 places for children, and I'm aware that people had difficulty actually with the online booking system this year, so perhaps that could be looked at for next year. There had been a blank field which didn't indicate what needed to go into it, so people weren't able to book, and by the time they got through to staff to find out what to enter, it was booked out. So people that went on early didn't get to book their place, and then were put on reserve, and the children didn't get through. So just if that could be addressed, that'd be great. I didn't realise there was social referrals, so I think that's excellent. I think, we should be encouraging that within the scheme. I was just wanted to ask a question in terms of the additional 6 schemes that are going to be run by community services. Where is that going to be? Is that in the Oma area or is it across the district? Because I noticed the other 6 then are at Castle Park and Bonacre, just so we can spread out what's being provided to meet the demand.
Yeah, an analysis is currently taking place with regard to where that demand, where those 324 children were last year, where that demand was. And it's based on that that we will try and find a central location or locations in order to meet that current need at this point in time.
No, in previous years, we'd looked at opportunities maybe with working with voluntary sector and other groups within the local community to maybe provide the summer scheme to try and reach more children. I suppose it's a bit like the football camps that go on each summer. There could be 150, 160 children at them in a week. And if 20 children can only go to summer camp, you can see the demand that's there across in a small area, what there could be. Has that been explored as an opportunity to see if maybe the seasonal workers that we have in for the summer scheme could work with the community on a voluntary basis, the two join together to maybe expand the offering? I know previously it has been indoors, but does it always have to be indoors? Could it not be on playing fields and so on, whether Gaelic or soccer pitches in the local area?
Yeah, we try to get kids out as much as possible. So we do. You can imagine what our weather is like. You know, often we find that some of our summer schemes, that we can't run them as well as we possibly could because we don't have an indoor facility. You can imagine some of the rain that we've had over the last number of years in the summer isn't good for the kids to be out in. So we really do need an indoor venue. And the ideal thing would be an indoor venue linked to an outdoor venue where we can bring them in if need be or whatever. And that's why our own community centres is ideal. You know, for the running of those. And we look for those facilities at a local community level, whether it be at a Gaelic field or soccer field or whatever like that, in order to have that indoor and outdoor facility available for them.
One last point. Can we explore the opportunity of not having an indoor facility? Because the summer camps for football are completely outdoors. If it rains, the children wear their jackets. They go inside, out of the rain, into the change rooms or so on. There's ways and means. I think it's something that we should try. If it's a means of trying to get to more children for the summer scheme, even if we did a half a dozen in the summer, just to see if it will work. Because children, they don't care if they get wet. You know, if they come prepared, I think they're happy enough. I think that if we're restricting it, that it's only indoors, you're only going to still only get to 20 or 30 children for every summer scheme. And I think it's such a shame when you know there would be demand and families out there would really want to have those opportunities for their children to have a week's fun in the summer, you know, at a very reasonable cost.
Yeah, we can certainly look at it. I think with the proposals that is put forward for members tonight, I think we will meet the demand, or we will go a large way to meeting that demand. I think we will find locations at a local community level in order to be able to deliver it. I think a new emphasis on recruiting staff, a new way of working with regard to the planning of events and the planning, I have to say, it happens now, you know, for the whole way right through to the start of July when the summer schemes start. I think that's the major piece of work that needs to be done. I think we will find locations at a local level that will match where that demand is. But certainly, if need be, and we're not finding a location that has an indoor and outdoor facility, we will consider the use of outdoor alone.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Donnelly. And you're happy to propose that, and we'll go to Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. I suppose the increase from 11 to 25 is a wee bit worrying. If a family has 2 or 3 children, maybe that's in the report. Is there any allowance for that? I suppose I was trying to do me sums there, and 925 children roughly that did it last year at £11, probably is taking in about 10,000. The equivalent next year would be taking in 25,000. Plus, if we have an extra 310 children, that's possibly taking in an extra 7,500 roughly, maybe. So I'm wondering, does the figures add up? You know, are we actually making that much extra money by going from 11 to 25? What is the we're subsidising it, but what would we have to subsidise it to leave it at the 11? Are we talking about another 7,500, or are we? I'm not sure. I just haven't got my head round it. I know that 310's confusing me because that would still be needed to be subsidised. So maybe you'd be able to use probably if that done.
No, well, I suppose in my simple head, like, you know, the subsidising, if we didn't increase from 11 to 25, we would have effectively your 925 kids that went through it last year, the 342 or whatever it is this year, by the £14, which is the difference. And I think that works out at somewhere around 17,500. That would be extra, that would be required in the estimates process on top of the 25,000 that has already been asked for through the estimates process. So instead of 25,000, you would have 42,500 that would be requested instead of 25,000.
Okay, and what about families with a number of children that would be attending?
Again, I suppose in order to consider that, we would need an increased budget. But we could certainly do something. We could certainly do something with that. It probably would increase the 25,000 request for the estimates process up slightly. It certainly would. Because effectively, and I genuinely mean this, we have went through our budgets with a fine tooth comb to try and find all efficiencies, because we know the importance. This is one of the most important programs that we run in the year, and trying to maximise the benefit for everyone with the least cost that we possibly can. So it certainly would increase the 25,000 if we were to reduce. And I totally get what you're saying in relation to, you know, if you have 2-3 kids for a week, it can become expensive. So that's something we can certainly look at and bring a report at the time when the estimates are being considered, you know, of a scaled version of the £25.
Yeah, I would be a wee bit concerned that it could possibly price out a lot of families in the area, say £75 for 5 days. It's hard to know. It's just I'd be a wee bit worried, but I appreciate that if it can be looked at that end of it again.
Yeah, I do have to say a provision of £25, and I know it's £5 per day. What you get for that £5 per day is absolutely enormous. So it is. You know, you even get fruit and things like that as part of the summer scheme. But what you are opened up to in the various different sports and activities, arts, nature, the environment, everything like that during that week it's absolutely tremendous program for £5 per day. But I totally get, you know, it can become very, very expensive if you have a number of kids.
Okay, we're going to Councillor Barton.
Thank you. It's just in relation to outdoor and indoor facilities, with rain or weather, etc. Has there been much exploring of maybe using school facilities to assist with this scheme during the summer, both secondary and primary?
Yeah, we do. We go around all of the schools looking for facilities. Sometimes in some areas, very, very difficult to get use of the facilities. But we do. We have our community services officers are out there on the ground looking for facilities actively for summer schemes.
Is that because they're turned down by the Board of Governors generally?
There are various reasons, yes, as to why, and some do make their schools available.
Yeah,
There are others where it's just not possible.
not possible. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we go to Councillor Thompson.
Okay, thanks very much again, Chair. I suppose we're lucky in Oma that we have 3 community centres with 3 muggles adjoining. And I suppose that helps. Sympathy with the rural areas maybe in this one, but maybe I think that helps there. I suppose one question that we be asked a lot of the time is, people within the vicinity. And if you take the 3 community centres in Oma and they're muggles, they're quite a distance from each other. And sometimes it means children going from one end of the town to the other. Is there any way we can look at that it's more maybe localised, or is there a reason why we can't do that? Because I know some they'll be oversubscribed because certain areas they're maybe a wee bit more far flung out to the edge of the town than others. Is that something that can be looked at?
Again, it's all got to do with resources and the number of staff that we have got in order to run these summer schemes and the availability of locations. We do, and that's why I say the amount of planning that goes into this and trying to find the right locations for summer schemes is absolutely immense. You wouldn't imagine the amount of work that goes into it. So one, there is trying to find a suitable location or locations. And 2 is trying to spread ourselves too thinly at the time of running the summer schemes themselves in trying to find the number of staff in order to run. So if we were running something at one community centre in Oma and doing something else at another venue in Oma, we would need double the staff again. So that would increase costs substantially.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair.
And we go to Councillor McElduff.
I agree with the points raised there by Councillor Thompson. I'm glad he raised them. For example, in the CKS Community Centre area, for example, the like of Culmore Park and O'Kane Park, you'll often hear feedback from parents saying, my children didn't succeed in booking a place at the CKS located summer scheme. So that's a big issue, for them. And then I'm interested in the social referrals. In Oma and Enniskillen, there will be neighbourhood renewal areas. In an Oma context, O'Kane Park, Strathroy, Gallows Hill, Campsie and Mullaghmore. And I'm just wondering, what is the criteria for social referral? Or can inside a neighbourhood renewal area, can a case be made for financial support for disadvantaged families who might want to be included in this scheme? They might find the £25 fee, difficult. In the past, I've heard from community leaders in Strathroy, for example, that it would be a good idea, and I think this has been accommodated, for a payment system where you can pay incrementally. You could pay a £5 followed by a tenner, now followed by another tenner type thing over a period of so many weeks. So I'd like that to be fleshed out as well. And then finally, does the council controlled community centres each have a sensory room? That'd be a question I would put. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, in relation to the social referrals, it's something that we introduced, I think it was 2 years ago, the social referral scheme for summer schemes. And we make a certain number of spaces available for social referrals based on income. It has worked very well, I have to say. Again, to increase the numbers increases the cost on the council. The ability to pay for your summer scheme in instalments is certainly available and something that we promote every year, and something that we would encourage on an annual basis for the partial payment at various times for the summer scheme. In relation to the sensory rooms, no, I don't believe that each facility, each community centre or leisure centres, I think all have sensory rooms now. And those schemes in there would take advantage of it. I don't think all of our community centres, but I'll come back to you on that. And if not, it is something that we could get through funding, and we have used the funding in the past through access and inclusion funding. So that's something we can certainly look at for sensory rooms in our community centre.
Well, in the context of this discussion, if I can formally propose that we do that as a council, we investigate financial support for the provision of sensory rooms in each of our community centres that this council owns, manages, controls. We see the benefits of it wherever you go. For example, there's a GEA for All programme that would, in a Carrickmore context, operate out of the youth centre. And the sensory room is an invaluable part of that. And in libraries and in leisure complexes, they're much used facilities and much needed. Breakout space for a child or a young person needing a moment, needing a wee bit of additional support, needing that stimulation that comes from that sensory room or that calmness. So I'd like to propose in the context of tonight's meeting that we explore that. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McElduff, are you also happy to second the original recommendation?
Yep.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. Just what Councillor McElduff there was referring to. I'm happy to second that proposal that we look at this the sensory rooms in each of the centres. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any indications online, and I don't see any further indications in the chamber. So the original recommendation has been proposed and seconded. Are we content? We're content. And we have a proposal from Councillor McElduff, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that we explore that issue with respect to the sensory rooms. We content? Content. All right, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 6.3, which is to note the report on events and festivals, paper H.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to note the minutes of the event strategy working group on the 7th of November, and they are included as Appendix 1 to the paper. And just to draw members' attention to inward sponsorship, it was something that we introduced about 18 months ago, but looking for inward sponsorship. We just to note for members that we had sponsorship for the Oma Christmas Lights switch on event, secured £6,000 through a partnership with the Housing for All programme that includes the housing associations of Arbor, Apex and Radius, and it enabled the inclusion of additional family-friendly activities in the Oma area for the switch on. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the minutes of the event strategy work group on the 7th of November and the inward sponsorship for the Oma Christmas switch on lights.
Thank you very much. And actually, can I just say, I had the pleasure of being at the Oma switch on, and it was an absolutely fabulous occasion. So I mean, it was a really good job, well done. Councillor McElduff.
The meeting, I'm happy to propose the adoption of this, and it's great to see that additional 6,000 coming from Housing for All partnership. They did the same in the summer in relation to the Teddy Bears picnic, and they're adding value definitely, and they're helping their own profile, which they want to advance their own profile as well in the process. So thanks to the housing associations concerned, and share the sentiments of Councillor Donnelly, our chairman this evening, at the fantastic event that is, the switch on of the lights in our main towns, and supporting other communities then to do likewise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any indications online. Not seeing any indications in the chamber. Can we just get a seconder then for that? See Councillor Donnelly. Agreed. Agreed. Thank you very much. Moving on then to Regeneration Plan Direct Reports for information. 7.1 to note reports on various tourism initiatives. Paper I. Sinead.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report then is to provide members with an update on various tourism development initiatives across the district, and those then would support the outcomes and actions from our visitor experience development plan. So the first aspect then of the report for noting is in relation to Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism, and this is in relation to their six monthly update, which then connects back to the service level agreement that we have in place with FLT. To provide tourism marketing and promotion activity for the 24-25 financial year. So the council and FLT there's an officer forum established to input into the development of the marketing and promotion plans, and that's aligned to our VED partnership, and that ensures that we have a coordinated approach to the activity through the destination marketing plan and then the council's marketing and promotion activity as well. As part of the service level agreement, then FLT were commissioned to undertake a range of activities that are set out at paragraph 2.13 of the report. And then you'll note then that at Appendix 1, we have the detailed report back from FLT in terms of their tourism marketing activity over the 6-month period. And then within the body of the report, the table then provides a summary, essentially, of that 6-monthly activity. The second item then within the report for noting is an update in terms of the Sperrin's partnership, in terms of the Sperrin AOMB consultation findings. So members will be aware that a consultation process has now been completed in terms of helping to inform the development of the first management plan for the Sperrin's AOMB. The findings of the consultation were presented at an event on the 14th of November, and I actually attended the event. I think it was a very positive event, and the consultation feedback was very well received. The full report from that consultation findings is at Appendix 2, appended to this report. In terms of the next steps in development in the management plan, there's a proposal that there will be an interim delivery model, really to identify the actions under the various themes. There'll be a number of work streams established to progress that over the next year, and expressions of interest are currently being received from a range of groups, then with a view to establishing working groups covering the themes identified in the consultation that have natural synergies. And it would be intended then that those working groups would meet over the next 12 months to inform the high-level draft management plan, and that then would be submitted to DAERA by the 30th of November of next year. And then the third item within the report for noting is in relation to the All Ireland Sustainable Tourism Assurance Programme update. So in December 2023, an expressive interest process opened for an All Ireland Sustainable Tourism Assurance Programme, which has been developed in partnership with Tourism Ireland, Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland. The initiative was designed to bring clarity and structure to the diverse range of sustainable tourism certification options available to businesses across the sector. And the primary aim there was to really classify existing certification providers into 3 distinct levels. Since the launch of the expression of interest, there have been several developments which have then impacted on the proposed All Ireland scheme. In response to these evolving issues and dynamics, the partners are currently undertaking a comprehensive reassessment of the assurance programme. But despite this challenge, the partners do remain firmly committed to launching the robust and credible programme that aligns with the industry needs and expectations. So in relation then to the recommendations, members, it's recommended the council notes the update in relation to the 6-month tourism marketing report prepared by Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism, that they note the findings of the Sperrin AOMB consultation process and note the update pertaining to the All Ireland Sustainable Tourism Assurance Programme.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any indications. If we're all content, then I see Councillor Rainey proposing. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Green. Okay, we're all content. We're all content. Thank you very much. Yeah. Move on then to item 7.2, which is to note the report on mid-year progress and performance improvement plan 2024 to 25 improvement objectives, paper J.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report then is to update members on the progress of the Council's Performance Improvement Plan 24-25 objectives during reporting period 1. So that's April 24 to September 2024. So members will be aware that this year, alongside the development of the Council's new corporate plan, that the Council undertook a reassessment of the prior year's improvement objectives to realign our improvement activity to our newly identified corporate priorities, which were agreed obviously as part of the consultation process. So having completed that task, then they've identified 4 improvement objectives for 24-25, which are outlined at paragraph 2.1.2. The performance improvement plan itself then outlines 13 actions aligned to the 4 improvement objectives, and then linked to that are 32 related best ideas. In terms of progress update then, within the paper, you'll note that that there has been progress in terms of 25 best ideas have been allocated a green RAG status. There's also been progress across some of the other actions, and 3 of those then have been allocated an amber RAG status. 2 of those sit within improvement objective 3. And I suppose part of the background and the rationale for why they have an amber status, I suppose, really relates to uncertainty around funding linked to the actual actions themselves, and then also a delay in receiving a letter of offer, which allowed us then to progress to the labour market partnership funding. So that impacted on the progress of those. And additionally then 4 of the best ideas have been allocated what we've referred to as a grey RAG status, indicating that the update was not applicable during this 6-month reporting period. Also then, just for noting members, that there's a total of 59 performance measures identified aligned to those 4 improvement objectives. And at the mid-year update then, not all performance measures reported data within that period. However, 45 of the 59 have reported data, but it would be intended then that all of those performance measures would have data when we come back to report in March coming. So in terms of recommendations then, members, it's recommended that the Council note the update relating to reporting period 1 progress on the 24-25 performance improvement objectives.
Okay, thank you very much. And not seeing any indications on WebEx. I'm seeing Councillor Thompson.
Yep, thanks very much, Chair. Thanks to Director Rebecca Boy again for her report. I don't think there's much more to say on this, really. I'm happy to propose a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Donnelly.
Happy to second the recommendations, Chair.
And enough. And if we have no further comment, we're all great. Okay. Moving on then to item 7.3, which is to note the report of the Director of Regeneration and Planning, paper K.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report then is to provide members with updates in relation to acceptance of a letter of offer, acceptance of an addendum letter, and then acceptance of a letter of variance. So in terms of the letters of offer then, you'll note that there has been a letter of offer in relation to the Arts Council for Northern Ireland towards Wonderful Wildflower Week project. There's also been an addendum accepted from the Public Health Agency for additional funds towards the delivery of a community conversations project as part of the Healthy Towns programme. And then there's also an update there in terms of a letter of variance that has been accepted for Department for Communities for additional funds towards an integrated advice partnership fund. Also in the paper then, you'll note that there's an update in relation to a briefing paper on tourism, Northern Ireland and the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council area and UK-EU exit. And that report has been compiled by the Centre for Cross-Border Cooperation. So the briefing paper itself then, the report is attached to Appendix 1 and has been provided, as I've said, by the Centre for Cross-Border Cooperation. The purpose of it is really to provide an overview of the statistics relating to tourism in Northern Ireland in general, and then relating specifically to Fermanagh Omagh District Council. The paper examines whether the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union has had any significant impact on tourism trends, as well as the potential impacts on the UK's introduction of the electronic travel authorisation scheme, And the Centre for Cross-Border Cooperation has just noted in the report that the analysis provided in the paper is informed by official statistics. So members, in terms then of the recommendation, it's recommended that Council notes the acceptance of the letters of offer, addendum and variance, and also notes a briefing paper on tourism in Northern Ireland and Fermanagh Oma District Council area and UK-EU exit.
Okay, thank you very much, Sinead. And I go to Councillor Green.
Thanks for the report. And I'd be happy to propose acceptance of that. Just on 2.1.2, in relation to the Healthy Towns programme, what way does that work, or how does that initiative work? Just a brief summary on that. And is there any, does it say which towns are availing of that? Or?
Chair, it is funding that is used through environmental health for Healthy Towns initiatives. You will see that the extra 10,000 is something which was actually mentioned yesterday at the Strategic Partnership Board in relation to that community conversation that has taken place with regard to the health needs at a very local level. And those will take place in the East DEA in the Lisnaskea area, and also in Lisnelly 1 and Lisnelly 2 in Oma here. That is what the 10,000 is effectively for. But the larger Healthy Towns programme is rolled out across all towns, not just Oma and Enniskillen, but all rural towns and villages also.
Okay. And Councillor McElduff.
I'd like to commend Sinead for her report, and I think it's very useful, item 2.2, that relationship that we've recently reignited with the Centre for Cross-Border Cooperation. I think they were previously known as Centre for Cross-Border Studies, but I think they're a fantastic resource at our disposal, given the nature and location of our council area and the number of partnerships that we have of that nature. It's important to bring them into play every now and then to inform us properly on things. And I look forward similarly till the informal meeting in the new year, when we meet with the joint secretaries of the North-South Ministerial Council. It can only lead to opportunities for us. So I'd like to thank Sinead for the report. Thank you.
And are you happy to second, Councillor McElduff? Good job. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional indications at this stage, so I think we're all agreed. Handy job. Okay. Moving on then to correspondence, and 8.1 is correspondence from Deirdre.
Yeah, Chair, if we could take item 8.1 and 8.2, I think, together. It is in relation to a request from this committee with regard to the withdrawal of inland fisheries support for the Fermanagh Fishing Classic. You'll see that the Minister for the Department for Economy has responded to say that Tourism NI will be issuing communications about its tourism events funding scheme for 25-26 early in December, and to contact Tourism NI in relation to that. It is unlikely that there would any funding would be available through that funding scheme for the Fishing Classic because of the scale. That funding normally is of such a scale that the Fishing Classic wouldn't meet those needs. The other correspondence from Dara in relation to the withdrawal of the inland fishery support for the Fermanagh Fishing Classic event. The Minister points out that unfortunately, even though it is mentioned in the Lough Erne Management Fisheries Management Plan, which is Dara's own plan of their support for the event, that it depends on available resources. In the current economic climate, it's no longer feasible or affordable to support the activities in the use of direct or resources in light of limited resources. I suppose, Chair, just as a bit of background, the Fermanagh Fishing Classic is worth somewhere in the region of £300,000 to the local economy, with the number of people who come and who stay normally for a period of up to 2 weeks. One in preparing for the classic itself, and the second week attending the classic. The inland fisheries normally or would always have prepared the public angling estate, but also helped out in preparing other sites. Some sites are challenging to get to. You would imagine that the anglers who come, they're getting older. And sometimes it is needed that a quad and a trailer is required in order to bring their equipment to the fishing pegs themselves. Inland fisheries also have the skill, and they undertake that work. Have historically undertaken that work. They also have the skill set and their knowledge of fishing in the area, which is of invaluable assistance for the classic itself. This year, that logistic support will become even more important because the first day of the event is actually on a bank holiday Monday. So their assistance would really be required. I'm informed that the overtime that is required, and we are talking solely about overtime here, is somewhere in the region of £3,000 to £4,000. And I suppose it is unfortunate that the Fermanagh Fishing Classic is actually in jeopardy because that cannot be provided, and that assistance, that it's worth a lot more, I can say, to the anglers than the £3,000 or £4,000 that inland fisheries would, in their costs would provide. So, Chair, it is. I know the minister says there that where the council officials and inland fishery teams have been liaising to discuss the options outside of direct support, but ultimately it is purely direct support from inland fishery staff that is required in this instance. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And going to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks again to Director Boyle for covering that. I suppose, first of all, can I propose to note the 2 pieces of correspondence with regard to the Fishing Classic event? I suppose when I was chair of council, I had quite a bit of involvement with that, and I know the effort that went into it and what it meant to the economy of Fermanagh in particular, and what it meant to the hotels in the area and probably B&Bs as well. So there was a lot of work put on there by council as well as from the department. So all I can say is it's really disappointing that just for the value of what they're talking about there, that it's come to this stage. It's looking very questionable. So propose the note. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And Councillor Barton.
Thank you. I would like to express similar sentiments. I think it's extremely disappointing that this funding has been withdrawn, and given the amount of money and the economy, the boost it was to the economy in Fermanagh, I think it's disappointing, and I suggest we go back to DAERA, explain this to them, that it really is very, very disappointing, and how dependent the economy of Fermanagh is on this classic. And are you saying, can I ask, John, are you saying that there's a possibility then that this will not be fit to run next year?
Yeah, certainly, Chair, member. Yeah, I think without the expertise and the involvement of inland fisheries outside of normal working hours, it is hard to see how the competition, how the classic can actually run without that expertise. Now, discussions are still ongoing in that regard, but I think it would be difficult.
Councillor Barton, are you making that a formal proposal then?
Yes,
We right back to
but
DAERA? Okay.
Go back. Yeah.
I'd second that, Chair. And I know I proposed the doubling of it, but obviously Councillor Barton's going to further proposal there. Happy to second.
And Councillor Barton, are you happy to second noting?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go then to Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And working in a Skilling and I see the amount of tourism that this event does bring to the town each year. People from across Europe come to this. It's a huge event. I just wanted to ask a bit more detail on, I know, John, you talked about the 3,000 for the overtime. Is there a sponsorship piece in this as well from Inland Fisheries, or is there an amount of money there that's been withdrawn, or is it just £3,000 we're talking about?
Chair, it's my understanding that it is just the staff overtime that we are talking about. That is that work on a bank holiday or on a Sunday, and outside of normal hours. I think DARA staff, I think their support or they work, I think is up to something like 4:30 in the afternoon or whatever, and each day they would need to be able to lift the weighing scales or whatever at each of the pegs and things like that. And that experience that they have is absolutely vital in respect of the running of the event.
Yeah, it's quite specialised
Yeah.
in terms of that. Well, I would certainly welcome the letter going back to DARA asking them to reconsider that in terms of 3,000. But as another option, I presume people pay to take part in the event. Is that an option to consider increasing, spreading that £3,000 across the competitors? Because there is quite a lot of people compete. It
Right.
might not actually work out to be a significant increase in the fees.
Yeah, that's an option for the event organisers, is supposed to take on board.
Yeah.
I know that the event itself, it isn't something that makes a lot of money. It is something that creates a lot of money for the local economy. So I suppose that would be up to the event organisers, like, you know, to see if they can manage to make that budget. But I suppose that's also in discussion with their officials as to whether that is an acceptable solution.
Yeah, it's a small amount of money in the scheme of things, and I think that we would need to reserve judgment on what we think should happen next when we hear back from DARA again, to see is there any way they could find £3,000. It seems amazing that they can't find that kind of money. It's so small. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. It's almost defies belief that that an event of this size and importance to Fermanagh is now being put in threat because of a £3,000 bill. Really, is this what it has come to? You know, it's laughable if apart from the fact that it's not funny. Am I taking this right? This is DARA that is refusing to pay overtime, and this is as simple as that. That's what the problem is. Is that what we're?
I suppose DARA is saying that you know, in the current economic climate, it's not feasible or affordable. And I suppose, you know, we appreciate that they have strict budgets, and their budgets are coming under pressure in the same way as council budgets, and they have to cut their cloth, I suppose, so they don't see this as a priority.
Well, really and truly, I think it's outrageous. Can I apologise? I didn't quite hear what Rosemary's proposal was before I attempt to make a proposal. Could you just clarify what it is before I maybe make the same one?
Well, I think it was, the proposal was that we would write back to DARA to express this council's disappointment, the impact that this decision will have on Fermanagh, and presumably ask for a reversal of the decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I would go a step further and demand a meeting with DARA officials, if not the minister, because if that amount of money has been jeopardised overhead of £3,000 or a few pound, if they want, I'll take a run up to the DARA offices, and I guarantee you within 2 hours I'll get £3,000 of wasted money that they're doing up there. No problem whatsoever. If they really need it, but probably don't put that in the letter now. We'll tell them it face to face if needs be. But it's outrageous. We shouldn't take it. It's unbelievable that the department would jeopardise one of the biggest events and tourist attractions in the county because of £3,000. It's unbelievable. It is actually unbelievable. Maybe if they're taking a flight or two over to London, maybe just cancel them and there's a couple of £1,000 straight away. I heard tell of a minister going to America there a lot of months ago at 5,500 business class seat each. Whatever you have a business class seat it was, but it cost them £5,500 for a flight. So it's outrageous. We need to call this out and not accept it. So I would propose that we demand a meeting with them in relation to that. And it'll probably, if we look for down here, it'll probably cost them £3,500 to come down here. It would be the time they put their expenses and get fed and all. So maybe that could be added as well. That instead of meeting us, maybe they could just put the £3,000 towards the fishing competition.
Do we have a seconder for, Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I don't see why they're both really the same. It's just adding on.
Yeah.
I don't see why it just can't be made under one proposal.
Yeah, if you're happy enough.
Made under the one proposal.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Chair, just to inform the committee, I think there is a meeting that is organised the 18th of this month, something that officers in the council have organised in order to meet with officials of inland fisheries in order to try and come to some sort of resolution or to see what the situation is. So we have organised that, but we'll certainly go ahead and arrange something else with their officials also for members.
yeah, I'll take Councillor Green in, then I'm going to let Councillor Warrington in. Sorry.
Thanks. I wonder, would it be possible then to just get maybe some of the officials, the permanent secretary or something, just to link into that one? Would it be possible, would it be easier linking into that and getting it over and done with on the one day? Inland fisheries is probably just doing what has been told from high to them, so they are not going to be able to make any decision on that day unless somebody higher up gives the go ahead. So they are almost the go between rather than the decision maker.
Yeah, Chair, we can certainly make inquiries in that regard.
Okay, Councillor Warrington.
Yeah, well, obviously everything has been seconded there. It's just basically to propose or to support the proposal. We all know how big the fishing competitions are in our own end in Fermanagh here. So it's just to support the proposal that's went forward there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see Councillor McElduff indicating.
Again, having been the chair of the council, like Councillor Thompson has said, bear in mind we are two Omagh town councillors. I absolutely get the importance of that fishing classic, and Councillor Donnelly has said it as well. Has observed it. It seems to be that people come to the Enniskillen area for a week in association with that festival, and they contribute in a major way. And I think if we're working closely with the hospitality sector across the council area, they need to hear messages from us as well that we are supporting them. So anything we can do to make this festival succeed, make any intervention, we should make it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we've had a proposal and a seconder for the noting, and also the proposal that we write back to DAERA and seek further engagement with officials has also been proposed and seconded. Are we all agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And I think then any other items there? No? Okay. Moving on then to any other urgent and relevant business.
Just going to say this piece of correspondence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's also just to draw members' attention to correspondence on the agenda from Minerals and Petroleum Branch. And that's just to note that on the 5th of December, that the executive endorsed Minister Murphy's final policy position to introduce a temporary moratorium and eventual legislative ban on exploration and production of all forms of onshore oil and gas, and a moratorium on the acceptance and processing of petroleum licence applications. In the correspondence notice is now in place, and legislation would be brought forward in the coming months to enact a full ban. So then just to note in that correspondence, there's a link through then to the departmental press release on this. And members then will note just within that press release that the Minister's clarified that the correspondence, in terms of bringing the legislation forward then, that would be introduced in late 2025.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And Councillor Green.
Yeah, I would just like to welcome that as somebody from Anna who remembers the whole campaign against fracking. I am delighted that the Minister has done this, and I suppose sometimes people just say, you know, that what benefits is Stormont or the executive tell us, and there's a good example of where people power and Stormont working together. We are now finally getting a ban on this terrible fracking, and hopefully that can be put to bed now and put in the past. So I welcome it, and if it needs a proposer to note, I'll propose.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Green. And Councillor Withers.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Just a second, the note in there, and welcome that ban as well. We know the environmental damage and concerns that were raised with that, and I'm glad to see that Sinn Féin Minister has brought that in. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And so that's proposed and seconded then for noting. Any other comments? Don't see any indications. Okay. That's noted. That's everything then? Yeah, okay. Moving on to items of any urgent and relevant business. I'm aware of 2 items that have been raised with me. I'll start with Councillor McElduff.
Vigil at 4 o'clock, and thanks for accommodating this. The council has written to the Department of Health regarding the proposed workhouse memorial, and the Department of Health are relevant because there's a land transaction that needs to be carried out, probably between the Department of Health and the local Western Health Trust, to enable a small portion of land to be set aside for the workhouse memorial. And we know too that the local housing associations are interested in helping to fund a memorial. We know that the Oma Heritage Forum is watching on and very interested and very supportive. But I think anybody reasonably looking on would be kind of disappointed at the apparent slow progress. And really the slow progress comes from that legal process between the Department of Health and the Health Trust. But interested observers are saying that in other areas, the local council has taken the lead and asking for the council to do the same. But I think the council is already doing that. But I do believe that interested stakeholders need that reassurance. I received a correspondence and I forwarded on to our director, John, just there now, where that concern is being expressed, for example, by the Oma Heritage Forum. So I think we have the urgency as a council. I know the Housing Association partner has the urgency, but the lack of urgency probably rests inside the Department of Health and Health, not the Health Trust, because they're indicating that they're awaiting feedback. But if there's anything we can do to expedite this legal sort of transaction, this process, I would like to reasonably think we could be unveiling this in 2025, for example. Why would it wait to 2026? Why would it wait to 2027? It doesn't have to be that far away. It doesn't have to be that delayed. And so I'd propose that we re-engage as a council with the Department of Health and keep on top of that agenda and that we notify the Oma Heritage Forum of our attempts to unlock that. Thank you, Chair.
And do we need a seconder for that? Really? Yeah. Councillor Donnelly. Okay, thank you very much. Oh,
Just one brief item, and I don't expect comeback on it here and now, but local people who are concerned at the vandalism of the dual language signs, and I just want this noted or recorded, there's an expectation, I believe, that the council notify the PSNI of any of these crimes, because there's definitely media inquiries about this. The media, for example, is speaking to the PSNI. PSNI are saying we didn't have any notification of these crimes. So I just want that clarified, you know, that where this happens, it be reported urgently to the PSNI for the purpose of recording this as a crime. Thank you.
Chair, it's my understanding that that already takes place, but I'll certainly check it out. But I think any signs that have been vandalised in our district, I think have always been reported to the PSNI. But we'll certainly check up if that's not the case.
Councillor Withers.
Sorry, Chair, it's on the same topic here as well, and just clarification there for Councillor McAuliffe. That's what my understanding was as well. And whenever I've ever raised these issues with director in the council, I've always been made assured that was the case, that our staff are in contact with the police on it. But do no harm to get that clarified further and follow up on it. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that's been proposed and seconded. Intent. Okay. Going now to Councillor Buchanan on WebEx.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, just this was a representation that had been received to Councillor Hawks, and she wanted me to raise it tonight, just around vehicles on the roads with bright headlights. I know she'd been talking to Director John Boyle about it. I know at the minute there's a lot of people would be contacting her about being dazzled by the brightness of some of the vehicles' lights, and if there was any checks or awareness that we could do on that as a council. I do know that the RAC done a study back in February, and it was a significant concern for many drivers. Now, I do know from my own background that as long as the bulbs are E-marked, and a lot of vehicles now are coming with xenon lights and stuff, so maybe there's not much we can do with it, but I wanted to raise it just on our behalf tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Is there an action we can take from that, John?
Yeah, I think we can, just as an exploratory action, I suppose, right to the driver and vehicle agency, and indeed the Department of Infrastructure, just to see what the regulations are, and to find out more about, I suppose, about the enforcement authorities as to who is responsible for enforcement, and follow it up. We'll follow it up from there.
Okay. Does I need a seconder actually?
Yeah.
Proposed by Councillor Buchanan. Can we get a seconder for that? And Councillor Thompson. Okay, we're all agreed. Great. Okay. Folks, that is the end of the meeting. I suppose just the only thing I suppose I would just like to mention, actually, I suppose my own little business. Councillor McElduff made reference to the vigil that was organised by Oma Women's Aid earlier today. It was a significant and very powerful event with some very strong testimony coming from it, marking the loss of women's lives since 2020. And I just want to say that we acknowledge and we pay huge thanks to the work that Oma Women's Aid does throughout the year to stand by the women and children in our community who suffer from pretty difficult situations. And I'm enormously grateful for the fact that Enniskillen Castle and the Stuart Arts Centre are both being lit up, I think, tonight to be able to mark this occasion. So just want to put that on record. But with that, folks, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance, and safe home.